Okay, hold the phone, I said. You're telling me that you can actually let me see him? The ghost, I mean. Ugh, yes, Victor replied, still frustrated with it. Come on, man, don't get that tone. You just told me you had a ghost partner. And that you could let me see him. So, why not just let me see him? I mean, you might as well. Ugh, he sighed deeply. Fine. We do have a ways to drive left, so even if I expend the energy to do this, I'll get it back before we arrive. So I'll show you, but only to take the shock out of it, so that you're not all blown away when I do it in person during the fight. Once again, I want your eyes on the freaking vampire. But I'm only doing this once, so you better get a goddamn good look, he said, giving me a cross expression. So go ahead and turn around and stare into the back seat. He's been sitting there the whole time. Once again, eyes open, not showing you more than once. I actually got up from my seat, putting one of my knees into the seat so that I could look over it into the back. Currently, it just looked like an empty back seat. My bag sitting on the far side, right where I put it, and nothing looked unusual at all. But then, I began to see something. Suddenly, I noticed that there was almost something akin to a fog, or like wisps of steam, that were slowly beginning to drift in the back. Looking at it, as it began to form, I started to notice that it was in the shape of a person. These wisps of foggy steam slowly started giving rise to shape, then color and tone, until finally, in full view sitting in the back seat, was a man, casually sprawled out, seemingly without a care in the world, his hands tucked behind his head as he leaned against the window, seemingly smoking a cigarette. How you can do that after you're dead, I don't know. His legs kicked up, resting on top of my bag. His appearance was straight out of a western. A large brown cowboy hat, an old-style self-rolled cigarette, a long brown jacket made of leather with a black button-up shirt, a gun in a holster around his waist, with bullets lining the belt that it hanged on. Gritty old cowboy boots kicked up on top of my bag, with steel spurs on the back, and a pair of brown pants to match the jacket's boot and the hat, and his entire form having that steam or fog drifting off of it. He was there, I could see him, but he was also somewhat see-through. I could make out the colors of all the fabrics he wore, his physical form, his face, his body, but I could also see through them, because he wasn't there, and yet he was. Taking a long hit of that spectral cigarette of his, finally he moved one hand from behind his head, using one finger to lift up his brown hat somewhat, to see the face of a very rugged man, who looked like he hadn't shaved in some time, but didn't exactly have a beard either. Probably somewhere in his late 30s or 40s. I just stood there looking at him wide-eyed, at this point completely freaking the hell out in my head, as he turned his gaze to me, breathing out a thick cloud of spectral smoke, a half-cocked smile on his face, and an ominous blue glow in the pupils of his eyes that seemed to beam out as he glared at me with that smile. "Well, kid, welcome to the fucking freak show," he said, laughing, still billowing out that smoke. "What the actual fuck?" I shouted, for a moment jerking back in my seat, leaning against the dashboard as I stared into the back seat as he dissipated into that cloud of smoke and steam. There's a fucking ghost in the car. Holy fucking shit. There is an actual, literal ghost in the fucking car. And he has his feet on my bag. What the hell? Yeah, I thought you'd take this a little fucking better, man, Victor said, looking over at me. You know, there's also an alien in the car, but you don't see me freaking out about it. Yeah, you've had time to get used to the alien idea. The ghost thing? That's freaking new to me, man, I replied, still in a bit of a panic. Sit your ass back down, Victor said, seriously. If you scuff my dashboard, I'll kick your ass. It's called a seat for a reason. Sit in it. I took a few breaths, trying to take my seat, as if I didn't just see a ghost in the back seat. To be honest, it was still freaking me out. I kept on trying to look into the rearview mirror to see if he was still there. But of course he's still there. I just can't see him. Holy shit, this is creepy. I was thinking to myself, still unable to stay calm knowing there's a dead guy in the car. Yeah, well, as far as introductions go, his name is Jack. Jack Tybalt, also known as Cast Iron Jack. He was a gunslinger in the Old West and killed a lot of people before finally dying in a shootout. And luckily for me, he hung around. And I met up with him, made him my guardian spirit, and now we work together. Which is difficult, because he's a fucking asshole. Truthfully, I can't stand the guy. If he wasn't dead, I'd kill him. You're lucky, Kevin. You don't get to see or hear him unless I let you. I see and hear him all the time. I wish he would shut the fuck up. But he never does. If he weren't one of the most powerful freaking souls I've ever come across, I'd exorcise his freaking ass. But luckily for him, he is powerful. So he gets to stick around, no matter how annoying he is. I mean, seriously, try going on a date with this fucker sitting at the table with you. Trust me, that's not an experience you want. But he is useful. So, here's the really important part. Now that you're done shitting yourself because you found out ghosts were real, I can explain to you how I utilize ghosts. This is the important stuff, so pipe up and listen close. All spiritual mediums, or shamans, have three basic functions to the way they utilize a soul. The powers that any in particular spiritual medium might have can drastically differ depending on their guardian spirit. But they always fall into three categories, which you'll see once combat gets started. This is basically just a heads up, so that you know what I'm doing when I call it out. The first of the three is possession. This is when I allow my guardian spirit to possess my body. In essence, we stack our souls on top of one another, each acting like an amplifier for spiritual ability, giving me access to all of Jack's strengths, all of the abilities he spent his entire life honing, his ability to wield a gun, his instincts, his speed, his precision. I get access to all of it, as well as being able to use that spiritual energy to enhance my attacks, meaning every bullet I shoot out of a gun, with Iron Jack here possessing me, holds a level of spiritual power, meaning it can hurt supernatural entities, ghosts, demons, vampires, and werewolves. Even if I were to attack them with my physical body, it would be the same. The spiritual output increases because we're amplifying one another. And that is only the first facet of being a spiritualist medium.